Hello and welcome. In this video we will be going through the process of creating a force levitation photo. The first step is to have some sort of concept. This photo idea requires a little bit of planning, and here's something that you need to keep in mind when doing that. You need to be able to have your camera or phone stabilized, so either be able to set up a tripod or come up with some other contraption, but the device you'll use to shoot needs to stay completely still. Another thing is that having some sort of chair or I guess a stool would be the easiest. This way it will be a lot easier for you in editing. For this photo I had two different concepts. I ended up choosing this one, but basically your concept can be anything. There are so many different directions one could go with this, and there is no right or wrong, and obviously you don't have to make a detailed plan like I did, but the most important thing is that you just have some sort of idea what you are doing before starting the shoot. There are many ways one could go about fulfilling this concept. This kind of photography is very creative and there are so many different ways to get the same result, but I'll walk you through how I decided to do it this time. I wanted to get two photos, one of just the background and one of me sitting on a stool in the pose that I wanted. And one thing to note here is that I took the picture of me on the stool first, because that way I could make sure that the focus is on the stool, and then I would switch the camera to manual focus so that when I take the picture of the background, the focal point will stay the same. Especially if you have a setup which allows a lot of depth of field, then this is something quite important to consider. But other than that, this photo shoot is not that complicated. It's also a lot easier if you have someone to help you to take the photo and holding up props if you need that. Otherwise you'll have to come up with some other way to do it, but this depends heavily on your setup and gear. Then we get to the fun part, which is editing. I'm using Photoshop and Lightroom for this, but you should be able to do this with most photo manipulation softwares, even on your phone. In the end, what we are doing here isn't all that advanced. So after editing the pictures in Camera Raw, I had these two pictures. I put them both in the same document, and the first step was to cut myself out of this picture. The alternative way to do this is to just simply erase the stool, but I wanted to change the position a little bit, so it was just easier to completely cut myself out on a new layer. Then I created some smaller stones by copying texture from the other bigger stones in the picture and drawing some highlights and shadows on those stones? I guess fake stones? Depending on what objects and props you want to have levitating in the air, you might have to go through some extra steps in editing or even already in the photo shoot. After adding the stones, I added some additional shadow to myself to further differentiate me from the background. This step also isn't necessary, it just depends on your background and what your composition is looking like. Then I also added some shadow underneath both me and the stones. How much and where to put the shadow completely depends on the lighting situation in your photo. The next step is definitely optional, but what I did was that I added some fake bokeh, or how you say it? Bokeh? Bokeh? Yes, the shooting conditions didn't allow for that much depth of field, so I wanted to add some in editing, mostly because I felt like the stones were melting into the background, and basically I just added some blur to the background and a little bit to the foreground. And this is the basic editing done. I then took the edited photo over to Lightroom, where I just did some final improvements, mainly with the color and those kind of things. And there we have the final force levitation photo. I'm actually not fully happy with how it turned out. There are certain details that annoy me a little bit, and the lighting conditions were not exactly what I wanted. But this concept was not that hard to execute, and I might want to try this again some other time. Thanks for watching, I hope you liked this video, and I hope I'll be able to make this into a series and in the future show you some more Star Wars photo ideas.